awesome music makers. How's it going out there? Got another little vlog for you. I want a little subject I wanted to touch on today. Is I was thinking about I was gonna do a vlog on my studio, how I kind of use it, and this amp, this Marshall head that I just bought. And I bought an open box kind of thing. So, but we'll touch on that next week for sure. But what I wanted to touch on this week, because it was so funny, Kim got he came in, this guy came in, and Kim was working, and I just did Saturday night at the Moose, and it was a really great gig, great little show, and very intimate kind of a situation. But and it ended up being good, and yeah, tips were okay, and got paid, and so that's always good. So 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 Kim was at the bar, working as a bar. She's a bartender there, and and I'm playing in this, and so there's this old guy there, and he sits in with everybody, So you got a guy in every town like that, that wants to, in a local town, and when somebody's doing a gig or open mic, more likely, but sometimes artists will let, because I've done it, and I've let people come up and do some songs just so I can take a break, and then yet it's a win-win because the venue gets to hear, the music doesn't stop. So anyways, so he was sitting at the bar, and he's a good guy. He's a good local guy. He owns a marina up here, and he does Johnny Cash songs, and I haven't really heard him sing or play. But I heard he's okay. So, but he's an elderly dude, he's probably in his late 70s, early 80s, late 70s, somewhere in there. And he plays a little ukulele, and he does Johnny Cash songs. And so anyways, he says to Kim, he goes, man, Jeffrey just has such a beautiful, amazing voice, but he doesn't need to use all those effects. It's like, oh God, how many times have I heard that? Well, this is the thing about using vocal effects. I mean, some people don't use them. Matter of fact, a lot of people don't use them, and I think it's kind of stupid. I mean, you could do it dry, but the thing is, you want to put on a little bit of a show. You not only want to soothe some souls with your music, but it's a visual thing too. So you've got a little show to, you've got to you got to entertain. So, but my thing about, and I used to get this in Mammoth when we were living in Mammoth. There was a couple guys that. And I kind of step back, and I'm open about it. I'm like, okay, maybe I shouldn't use effects on my vocals, because for years, we just got away with a slight reverb, maybe a little bit of slapback. I mean, during the years when I was, with Cat House, or even when I was with Jeffrey James and the Wanted Gang. We always used a little effects. What I've noticed, especially kind of in small towns, is that all the artists, and there's great artists out there, they just don't really it almost seems like they don't give a shit about their vocals. Sometimes, a lot of times their vocals are underneath, and you're kind of struggling to hear them a little bit, and their guitar's loud, and this, that, and is loud. Or that's what it is most of the time, or it's dry as fuck. So I don't know, man. This is just me. I mean, I think when we do our covers, and we try to stick as close as we can to the album. Obviously, we can't get exactly like the album; it would be boring. But you want to get as close as you can to the artist and the song itself. As long as you get that feel that comes across when you hear that song on the radio, you get that feel. Well, that's what you want to do when you convey a cover song. You want to give them that feel. They want to feel that song, and to do that, you got to pull all the punches. And what I mean by all the punches is, if they've got a heavy slap back in the song, you better get your vocals, get some vocal effects going and get a slap back in that song. That's how I feel about it. And being that I use the play acoustic, there's so many different effect settings in there. So I have gone through the songs. I've gone through my songs that I use, and I've got a lot of songs where I just use a slight delay, a very short, kind of a slap back delay. And then I put in a tiny bit of reverb. So that's what I use majority of the time. Now, if I do, let's say, an Eagles song. Well, Eagles, believe it, they've got tons of effects on their vocals. You just don't hear it. They use the effects to blend. And that's another subject. And I do in my studio a lot is, I want, it depends on the song. If I want more effects in the vocals, I'll put more effects if I think it needs it, if it's that kind of song. If it doesn't, I'll just put a little reverb, slight little slap back, very little, where you can't even tell it pretty much sounds dry, but what you're doing is you're thickening and smoothing the vocals when you use effects. That's what you do when you use very little. And then when you start bumping it up a notch or whatever, and you can start hearing the slap back and the reverb, you can actually start hearing it in the vocals, then that's an effect. You want the effect that you want to use or whatever you're using. So I got so tired over the years because people in this small little town in Mammoth are going, yeah, Jeff sounds great, but he's got a lot of effects on his voice or whatever. So I step back and I'm going, okay, why are they saying that? Because I'm not really using that much. Now, granted, there's some songs that I do like Crimson and Clover, Pink Floyd, who else? The Beatles, Pink Floyd, and doggone it, I forgot the other song that I use a lot of vocals. Pink Floyd, A Day in a Life, the Beatles. I use a lot of heavy effects on there. So there's some songs which I do use a lot of effects. But when you listen to the song, you listen to on the CD or whatever online, you can hear the effects. They're not just slight effects to smooth the vocals and blend vocals. They are actually they got it up high enough where you can actually hear the effect of the vocal. So that being said, be careful using your effects because they're, the people. So the reason why I stepped back and I was like going, okay, why are they saying this? So I'm listening and I've got videotape of myself. I'm going, oh my God, it just sounds perfect. It's the blending's good. And then, I'd come across some songs where I use heavy. But what I've noticed, me and Kim last weekend went to a open mic, and it was pretty cool. A lot of people just doing bluegrass kind of stuff and just doing cover stuff and stuff like that. And they each get to do 3 songs. And actually, I did a couple songs myself. But everybody brings their own guitar. I didn't bring a guitar, but Randy that hosts as the MC for the open mic at this little brewery, he lent me his guitar. And anyway, but what I've noticed is that every artist I see in a restaurant, a club, a brewery, wherever they're playing at, a lodge, what I've noticed, not just here in Big Bear, but in Mammoth too, I noticed that nobody's using effects. they're just dry out of the PA. And not that that sounds bad. You know, you can get away with that and it's fine. You better be on pitch and better be right in the ballpark when you're singing your song. But because there's nothing to smooth it out, it comes across harsh. So but that's what I've noticed. Now I don't know if that's in your neighborhood or what, but yeah, when I see people, I'm going, so many times I've sat down and Kim's been with me and we're like, God, that guy would sound great if he just had a little effects on his vocal, a little blending or a little slapback or a little reverb, a little something just to smooth and blend in with his guitar or his beat buddy or whatever he's using, or even a band. Yeah, it's so weird. And so these old guys, he bounces around town and sets in on these open mics, and all open mics I've ever seen, they never, ever use vocal effects. No reverb, nothing, just dry. And like I said, it doesn't sound bad, but to me, I call it campfire style, really. I mean, you might as well sit around the campfire and just belt out a bunch of songs and have some fun and get drunk and have a drink and whatever. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't know why people are, well, I think I kind of know because, I came from the circuit, a pro circuit. I toured all over the damn country and I've worked with a gazillion sound guys that run the main board or even run the monitor board for that matter. Because even when I'm singing up on stage, even when I did that Mammoth gig, I used a couple of songs I had some heavy effects on, and I like to hear my effects in my monitor. I like to hear that. It just, I don't have the John Lennon syndrome. I really don't. And what I mean by that is, I remember some interviews, or it was written down, or somebody was saying one of his, maybe it was that producer that said it, that John didn't like his voice. He just didn't like his voice. And that might be like some of you guys that are out there. You might not be real secure with your voice. And I get that. But John wasn't. He didn't like his voice. And the only time he liked his voice is when he stuck a nice Elvis slapback on it, and a little bit of reverb. So, but, to each is their own, right? But, yeah, when he says, when that guy mentioned it to Kim, I'm going, are you kidding? Are you kidding? I haven't heard that in like 5 years. When I first started off in Mammoth doing the solo thing 7 years ago, yeah, I remember hearing people saying that, a couple people, and they were people they were actually musicians, but not pro musicians. They were just musicians. Like they'd sit in on open mics, playing harp or whatever they do, or guitar. And they go, yeah, I've heard it before. They go, yeah, you use a lot of effects. I go, not really. I don't. I just like the sound. I like the sound close to the album. I mean, like I said, if I'm doing a song like The Band or the Eagles, something like that, where they actually did use a lot of effects, but they didn't use it for the effect purpose. They just used it for blending. That's all they used it for. So it sounded, when you hear a Eagles song, you can hear their voice clearly. Don Henley, when he went solo, he was using a lot of big slapback and big reverb on his solo album. But when you got to the Eagles, they used reverb, a little bit of delay and stuff like that, but it wasn't enough to really hear it. It just blended in with the song and thickened up the vocals is what it did. So yeah, even though it sounds like they're not using, and they also use compression as well. If you think that they don't use effects, you're crazy. They do. Anything that's produced, the big boys, out there, that the big guns that are out there touring, they all use effects. But it's so funny when you're in a town, and I use the same amount, if not less, of effects than the big guns actually use. Um, People are like, oh, he uses a lot of. Basically, there's Karens out there. There's a bunch of Karens out there that are just like, I don't know if they're jealous or they're just not used to hearing. That's what I think a lot of it is. They're just not used to hearing somebody in their game in the music circuit use effects. They don't. And so when somebody comes in to use them, they're like, oh wow. He uses a lot of vocal effect. Yeah, well, yeah, I got your vocal effect right here. Okay. Guy's funny. But yeah, so don't let anybody discourage you if you're using effects, because you get a lot of that. There's a lot of towns across this state and across this country, and there's a lot of good musicians in every little town, and you'll notice that not a lot of people use effects. They just don't. I don't know why. I think they're cutting themselves short, really. I mean, if they want to come across more like the song or want to sound more blended and have the song sound a little more produced when you do a gig, yeah, use it. But, like I said, though, but there is a such thing as too much vocal effect. So remember that. Don't get carried away with it. What you do is you add a lot of vocal effect and then, try it with your song. You'll hear it. You'll go, oh, God, that doesn't really go in. That doesn't fly with the acoustical guitar or the song that you're doing or whatever. Start backing it down. Just give yourself a little bump where it just sounds, I call it the sweet spot, right? Just bring it up where that sweet spot where you can barely hear effects, but it still sounds on the dry side a little bit. That's the key, and that's what will make you, like I said. But like I said, there's songs that have a lot of effect. Don't be afraid to use those effects. If you're doing like I use Day in a Life, and if you hear the vocal effect, I don't know what John's using on that. I think he's using a delay, and I know it's compressed. He's using some kind of compressor on his voice. Yeah, but it's got the effect, and there's a lot of effects in that song. So being that my guitar is kind of straight with a little bit of reverb in it, a little tiny bit of chorus on my acoustic, just to sound fatter and bigger. Sometimes you got to push the effects up for the effects to come across in the song. So yeah, it's just all experimenting, but don't let anybody in town that you're playing in or whatever say, oh, I think you're using too much effect. Maybe you are, but like I said, if you just remember to not use too much, just enough for blending, and if you want to bump it up a little higher, yeah, just don't go crazy with it. Because people are going to go, oh, what's he singing? He's singing a folk song, but he's got, like mega delay on it. It's slap backing and repeating, and the feedback is just going on. And you don't want that, But yeah, so, yeah, don't let, I've heard that, but it was so weird. I hadn't heard that in years. And then finally the old guy, but again, he plays with a bunch of, I call him, well, we all start from the garage, but I call them, like part-time players or whatever. And they're just happy to get on a mic. They don't care about vocals and stuff like that. They just want to get on the mic and do their song and show off and spread a little love. That's okay. But just because you hear somebody that comes along playing the same gig you are or the same venue and their sound a little bit produced and pretty. So I think there's a little jealousy involved. Guy, he's got a good slap. Because I've had people come up, hey, dude, your effects sound bitchin'. So I've gotten that more than anything. They sound great. They're perfect. And I've even asked people, are they overdone, or do you think it's blending all right? And dude, you're right there. Perfect delay, So I've heard all that too. But once in a while you get the knuckleheads that are like, yeah, either they're old school, they're just happy to get on a mic, and they're usually playing dry. They probably never even had their vocals through a processor before with effects. I don't know. Sometimes you just want to come up and slap them right side of the head and say, hey, you're doing a good job. Anyway, so, but that's it. I just wanted to talk about that. Next week, we'll get into my studio, I think, a little bit, unless something comes up. Update, I still haven't heard from that place on the lake. I don't know what's going on. I haven't heard. They said somebody said it was going to be 2 weeks. Well, that's done and passed already. Matter of fact, it's going on 3 weeks. But then I heard somebody, I guess this guy called the other couple that works there, that've been working there a lot longer. And I guess they got a call from him, and they say, yeah, it looks like it's going to be another 2 weeks. So who knows what's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to open up or whatever. So, yeah, I'm going to have to hit the pavement. I did get, and I might do bring you along on that gig. I might do, I'm doing a Townsend, a really cool whiskey bourbon distillery down the hill. It's not on the mountain here. It's down the hill in Apple Valley, called Townsend. And I guess they're building a big Townsend in Oklahoma too. I don't know how good they're doing. They hadn't called me back. I'd been playing there in the beginning of spring, and then they pulled the plug, I think, because I never got a call back from them. And then I never saw, because I always used to see they used to pop up, and I'm on their group on Facebook, and they weren't having any live music, not even the bands. So, but the good news is I got a booking out of it, and then I'm booked there March 2nd on a Saturday night, and it's inside, thank God, because that was an outside gig, and I wasn't really, it was like, God, in the summertime, it gets triple digits down there. Anyway, so that's what's going on. I haven't heard from that place on the lake yet. So one step at a time. Sometimes you got to be patient with these things, guys. You just have to be patient. And if they, you don't hear from them, just go down and slap them upside the head and say, hey, forget about it. How come I'm not on your books yet? You gotta straighten them out. So anyways, I love you guys all. I'm trying to remember the name. It was Andrew gave me he donated to the tip jars. Andrew Christopher, pretty sure that's it. Thank you so much, brother. I was supposed to thank you last week, but I'm thanking you again today because I got your name right, Christopher. Thank you for the donation. Every little bit helps. Like I said, I don't get paid for this station at all. Wish I did. Everybody else is making money on YouTube but me. But anyway, so if you can find it in your heart to, I hate doing that shit. Like hit the subscribe button and then stick your finger in my butt and then hit the bell. It'll ring the bell in my butt and you'll know that I'm playing, that I've got a video. I don't know. I just can't do that shit. I just can't do it. But I will spit it out once in a while. So, because there probably is a few people on here that don't subscribe. And if you haven't subscribed, well, then fine, be that way. Okay. So, anyways, it's not going to hurt you to hit that subscribe button. That's what I'm saying. Tax man's not going to run after you. The IRS, you're good. You're good. You're safe. There's no paperwork involved. There's no vaccine involved. Just hit the freaking button. That's all you got to do. All right, guys. You guys all rock. I love you all. And we'll speak to you next week. Ciao for now.